What's going on, guys? This is CJ for Out of Bounds. Welcome back to the channel. I just wanted to jump on here and do a quick NFL PrizePicks board breakdown for both the Saturday and Sunday NFL Divisional playoff games. So we're going to go position by position, team by team, try to locate some good plays where we might be able to get an edge on this slate. If this is your first time to the channel, welcome. On this channel, we do everything from all of the hottest off the field sports stories to NFL DFS, NBA DFS. So if you're into sports like I am, this is your one-stop shop for it all. Definitely hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. Like and share, and definitely drop some comments. I love interacting with you guys below. But without further ado, let's jump over to the PrizePicks board and start getting into it. I'm going to start with quarterbacks, and we're going to run through those real quick, and then we'll hit some of the guys in the skilled position like running back, wide receiver, tight end. We won't do everybody because I want to keep this video condensed, but we're going to hit some of the more popular names today. So let's start with Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure that this guy is going to be very, very popular. Of course, Rodgers having a great season. MVP candidate for sure. So if we go across the board here, we're using DraftKings today. DraftKings projections are the closest that we have to PrizePicks scoring. So that's why we use DraftKings for these videos. The only difference between DraftKings and PrizePicks is that DraftKings, you get a 3-point bonus if your quarterback passes for over 300 yards, where PrizePicks, they don't give you that bonus. Otherwise, scoring is identical. So for Aaron Rodgers here, they have him projected at 21.03 points over on Roto Grinders. If we look at if we look at Rise or Fall, Rise or Fall's projections have him at 19.09. So 19 to 21 point range on Aaron Rodgers. They like the under on Rodgers, who is currently at 22. So there you go for him. We'll head on down to the next quarterback that's sure to be popular on this slate. That's Lamar Jackson. He's projected at a lofty 26 fantasy points. Let's see if the other sites like that projection for Lamar. Well, once again, guys, you could see that they like the under on Lamar Jackson by quite a bit. They've got him at 22.93. That's close enough for me to round up and make it a 23 for Lamar Jackson, but still quite a bit under the PrizePicks projection. And then we'll look at Rise or Fall. Rise or Fall likes Lamar Jackson to score 21.37. So once again, guys, that's another situation where you would probably want to take the under on Lamar Jackson if you're buying into these projections that they have here for DraftKings. So there you have it on Lamar. Next guy up, Josh Allen, having a hell of a season. Finished the season super, super strong. Definitely another guy who's in the MVP race, if you ask me. He's projected for 26, just like Lamar Jackson is. Let's take a look here. They've got Josh Allen at 23.89. So if we round that up to 24, that's still an under for Josh Allen. And then we take a look at Rise or Fall. They've got him up at 23.61. But once again, guys, this is another situation where they like the under on Josh Allen today. So there you have it for Allen. Looks like the quarterbacks in general are priced up or projected up a little higher on PrizePicks versus some of these other sites that we're looking at so far. Is there any other quarterbacks worth talking about? Of course there is. Of course there is. Let's talk Pat Mahomes, 26.5. He's the highest projected quarterback on the board. We know Pat Mahomes has tremendous upside, as does Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Roto Grinders has Pat Mahomes at 27.81. Let's round it up and call it 28. That would be an over on Pat Mahomes. And Rise or Fall has Pat Mahomes at 27.58. So even if we round that one up, that's 28. Both sites like the over on Patrick Mahomes versus the Cleveland Browns. Let's scroll down a little bit. We got to talk about Tom Brady, the GOAT. He's projected for 21 points over on PrizePicks today. If we head on down the list here, we've got Tom Brady at 19.24. So they expect Brady to struggle a little bit, I guess, and not get to that 21 PrizePicks points projection. If we go down the list here, they've got Rise or Fall's got Tom Brady at 20.72. That's enough for me to just bump him up to a 21. It's going to be pretty close with Tom Brady. I mean, that's one where the projections, they seem to be favoring the under slightly, but I could see this one being a coin flip and really just going either way. The last guy we'll talk about is Drew Brees, the other side of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers, New Orleans Saints game. He's projected for 19 points on PrizePicks today. Let's see where they like Mr. Drew Brees. They got him at 18 on Roto Grinders, so they like the under by 1 point on Drew Brees. And then finally, they've got him at 19.19 over on Rise or Fall. So there you have it on Drew Brees, another situation where they're, really tightly projected on Drew Brees. So the 19, I mean, this is going to be one of those coin flip situations. But you got to ask yourself, how do you see the game playing out? Do you see this being a game where they lean on Alvin Kamara more? Do you see this being a game where Drew Brees is more involved in the passing game? Maybe the Saints give up a couple of early touchdowns and are trailing. So as you're making these picks, you have to think about game script. How does the game unfold? How do you see it playing out? And then you got to run with that narrative and make your picks based on that. So there you go. Now let's head back up to the top of the board here and start cracking down on some of these running backs. There's not a lot of great running backs on this slate, guys, but I think there is some opportunities here for us to potentially make some moves. So like Cam Akers, for instance, this has been a guy who's been receiving a lot of touches, a lot of carries in this offense as of late. So let's take a look and see where they like him. They like a slight over here on Cam Akers. They got him at 15.68 points, which would put him just over his projection of 15 on PrizePicks. Let's head over to Rise or Fall and see where they've got Cam Akers, 15.75. So as you can see, guys, the slight over is definitely in play here for Cam Akers, and I like that because the guy, when healthy and starting, is getting 20 plus touches a game. The volume should be there. Unless for some crazy reason that the Green Bay Packers just put up, massive amounts of points and they have to abandon the run game. But even still, Cam Akers does give you some receiving upside as we've seen in recent weeks. So there you have it. Let's talk about the guy on the other side of this game, Aaron Jones, starting running back for the Green Bay Packers. He's projected for 15.5 points. Of course, the matchup against the Rams is going to be a very, very tough one, but Aaron Jones is a guy who can get it done, both on the ground and through the air. So let's see where they like him here. $16.78 over on Roto Grinders. And if we take a look at Rise or Fall, they've got him at 17.91. So this looks like a very, very nice opportunity to take an over on Aaron Jones. Just keep in mind that this isn't the easiest matchup for Jones, but we do know that he can be involved in this passing game and has shown an ability to catch the football at times too. So he doesn't have to get it all done on the ground, but most of the time that's where he's going to find most of his production is going to be on the ground, and hopefully falls into the end zone. He's pretty good as far as touchdown scoring goes. Let's head on down the list though and see who else we have that is worth talking about. Not really going to touch on Devin Singletary. That doesn't interest me too much. J.K. Dobbins, on the other hand, is an interesting play. They got him at 12.5, which seems to kind of be where J.K. Dobbins has been in recent memory. So he's facing off against the Buffalo Bills in this one. Let's look on down the list here. They like the under on J.K. Dobbins. 11.15 is his projection on Roto Grinders. If we take a look at Rise or Fall, they've got J.K. Dobbins at 11.64, guys. So both sites like the under on J.K. Dobbins in this matchup. Now, Dobbins has done a better job at finding the end zone recently, but as you know, this big guy right here, Gus Edwards, has been a touchdown vulture, meaning he steals touchdowns from Dobbins. Not only that, but we also have to worry about Lamar Jackson possibly robbing Dobbins of some of those red zone touchdowns too. So there you have it for Mr. J.K. Dobbins, the under looking like the way to go for him. Let's head on down the line here. We got to talk about Nick Chubb, Cleveland Browns running back. Had two back-to-back very, very good weeks against very, very good defense in the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's projected for 14.5 points today. Let's take a look here and see where they like him across the industry. They like the slight over on Nick Chubb, 14.74. And if we head over to Rise or Fall, Nick Chubb is projected at 15.04. So his projection this week, I think, is a little down versus where he was last week against the Steelers. But as I said, the last 2 weeks he's faced Pittsburgh, one of the best run defenses in the league. He's shown that he is matchup proof. Nick Chubb, that is. So, I think he can go over 14.5 points here, and that's probably the way that I would lean with Nick Chubb. Moving on down the list here. Kareem Hunt's going to be kind of interesting. So the reason I say that is if Kansas City builds a big lead early, then maybe that cuts into Nick Chubb's production a little bit. And then we see Kareem Hunt, who is more involved in the passing game. He's projected at 10.5. Let's see how the various sites like Mr. Kareem Hunt. They like the over on Hunt. 11.5 is his projection over on Roto Grinders. And if we take a look here at Rise or Fall, they got him at 10.82. So a little more modest on their projection, falling closer in line to where he's projected at on PrizePicks. So again, this goes back to game script. How do you see this game playing out? Do you see Kansas City mounting a huge lead early on in the game? Do you see Cleveland then abandoning the run game, going more to a passing attack? That could be big news for guys like Baker Mayfield, for Austin Hooper, for Kareem Hunt. There's upside there in that passing game if they do find themselves trailing early. And of course, we can't talk running back without talking Alvin Kamara, possibly, well, really undoubtedly the best running back on this board today. He's projected at 20 points, which is a big number, but we know that Alvin Kamara and his involvement in this offense, he can definitely get there on any given week. So Alvin Kamara on Roto Grinders, 21.39 is his projection against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Looking back at his two previous matchups against the Bucs, he's done pretty well against them. Even though they're a formidable defense and are typically very good against the run, Alvin Kamara is just way too involved in this offense, whether it be on the ground, getting touchdowns, or even catching the football. And, he can get it done on the ground or through the air and find the end zone. And then over on Rise or Fall, they like Alvin Kamara for 21.29 points. So both sites like him to go over 21, which means you should definitely consider going over the 20 for his PrizePicks projection. So I like the over on Alvin Kamara there. No Buccaneers running backs on the board. I believe Leonard Fournette is the guy who is slated to probably start here. I think Ronald Jones was dealing with a number of injuries. Not sure if he's going to suit up or not. Haven't really looked at the news quite yet. So that's going to do it for running backs. Let's talk wide receivers real quick. First guy on the board, probably the most popular receiver for the Rams today, is going to be Robert Woods. Bobby Trees. If you don't know his nickname, now you know. Bobby Trees, projected for 13.5 points today. Let's take a look at Roto Grinders real quick and see where they like Mr. Woods. They got him at 15.8. They think he goes over his projection. And we'll take a look at Rise or Fall real quick. Let's filter out all the other positions and just look at wide receiver. Robert Woods here, 13.91. So the two sites are torn on Robert Woods and his projection. But both sites like him to go over. So there's definitely a gap here. So 13.91 and 15.8. Somewhere in between there, maybe that's where he falls. But either way, guys, they both like the over on Robert Woods. So that might be a good way to go, especially if Green Bay is able to put up some points against this tough LA Rams defense. And then, the Rams have to turn around and start throwing the ball, which they got a quarterback with a bum thumb. So good luck with that. Here we go. Davante Adams, big time receiver. We know what Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers can do. 19.5 points. Big projection here for Davante Adams. Let's see if he can pay it off, though. Let's see. 21.36 is his projection over on Roto Grinders. That would be a hefty over, a nice chunky over for Adams. And then we've got him, we got him over on Rise or Fall at 21.98. So let's round that up to 22. And as you can see, guys, both sites, they like Davante Adams to go over his projection. And, I'm kind of leaning that way too. We think that, Jalen Ramsey or whoever the Rams are going to try and put on Davante Adams is going to slow him down. But really, guys, how many defenders, defensive backs, defenses in general have been able to slow down Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams? That connection is matchup proof. That connection is good as gold, if you ask me. So I don't mind taking the over on Davante Adams, and I think most sites tend to agree. Let's move on down the line here. Talk Marquise Hollywood Brown, a guy who really has come on strong here at the end of the regular season and even last week in the playoffs. 14.5 is his projection today against a Buffalo Bills defense who's, not the most difficult, but also not one that we've really been targeting for the most part in daily fantasy sports. But let's see what Mr. Brown can do for you. Going down the list here, Marquise Brown, they like a slight under on Brown. 14.09 is his projection today. So pretty close, pretty in line with PrizePicks, right? At that 14 mark. Let's head over to Rise or Fall real quick and take a look at Marquise Brown there. They like him at 12.78. So they like the under on Brown. So both sites under on Brown, one a little closer to PrizePicks, but the other, Rise or Fall, quite a bit under the 14.5. So if I'm leaning one way or the other, it's going to probably be the under on Hollywood. This guy is boom or bust typically most weeks. If he hits a touchdown, odds are he will go over 14.5. So really, that's what you got to expect with Hollywood Brown if you take the over, is that he's going to find the end zone today. Stefon Diggs, former Minnesota Vikings wide receiver, has found a new home in Buffalo. Looks to be completely comfortable there with quarterback Josh Allen. One of the best connections in the league, Allen to Diggs. So we got to look at his projection. He's projected for 21 points today against the Ravens. We know the Ravens have been pretty tough all season long against wide receivers, but if we look at Diggs on Roto Grinders, they like him for 19.6 points. Now keep in mind, guys, I'm going to reiterate here, with wide receivers and running backs, if they get over 100 yards on DraftKings, they get 3 extra points. 3 extra points. On PrizePicks, they do not get the 3 extra points. So some of these projections, you might want to just, like, if 19.6 and you think Diggs is going to go over 100 yards, you might want to dial that back just a little bit. Instead of thinking 19.6, maybe you think like 16.6, because he won't get that 3-point bonus that we're used to getting on DraftKings if you've played there. Nonetheless, though, let's go to Rise or Fall and see how they like Stefon Diggs. They got him at 18.32. So both sites are under. Both sites are under on Stefon Diggs and his 21 projected points today. So being that they're both under, and taking into consideration that you get the bonus on DraftKings and you don't get it on PrizePicks, I would kind of tend to lean toward the under 2 on Diggs. But, you know, guys, the upside with Allen and Diggs is definitely there. So there is some risk. There is some risk at taking the under on Allen or Diggs today. Let's move on down the line. Let's talk Tyreek Hill. We'll get to Jarvis Landry too, but let's talk Tyreek Hill first. Tyreek, the cheetah, projected for 19.5 points against the Cleveland Browns today. That game kicks off at 3:05 p.m. Let's see how the sites like Tyreek Hill. We know they love Patrick Mahomes. We talked Patrick Mahomes over earlier in the video. Well, they also like Tyreek Hill today. 21.48 is projection over on Roto Grinders. If we take a look at Rise or Fall, they've got him even higher at 22.35. Another situation here, though, guys, where if Hill goes over 100 yards, you got to take 3 away from that. So if they got him at 22.35 and that's factoring him going over 100 yards, well, this isn't actually 22.35. This is actually 19.35. So that makes things a little closer and a little more tricky when you talk about his projections here on PrizePicks. Backing up a spot, though, Jarvis Juice Landry projected for 14 points today. Let's look at the various sites and see where they have Landry projected. 15.68 on Roto Grinders as he faces the Kansas City Chiefs defense. And then we head over to Rise or Fall. They've got Jarvis Landry at 15.56. So 15.68, 15.56. Both sites seem to be in total agreement here. I mean, that's close enough for me to call them tied on the projection for Landry. They both like the over for Landry. I like the over for Landry too, especially if Cleveland finds themselves trailing early in this game and trying to play catch up with this Kansas City Chiefs offense. And I do expect Kansas City to come out firing on all cylinders today. So there you have it for Jarvis Landry. Let's move on down the line because we've got a couple of big names on the Buccaneers that we have to talk about. Chris Godwin being the first. 15 is his projection today. He's sure to be a popular pick over on PrizePicks. His last couple of games against New Orleans earlier this season have been pretty good ones. Let's see where they like Godwin today. They've got Godwin at 14.32 versus the Saints. That would be a slight under. And then Rise or Fall has Chris Godwin a bit higher at 15.73. So the two sites are torn. They're split on Chris Godwin. One has the under, one has the over. Which way do you think Chris Godwin goes? Leave a comment down below. I love hearing from you guys. Also, we've got a link to the Discord in the description below too. So if you're not a part of our Discord yet, what are you guys doing? We're talking prize picks in there every day, and not just NFL, but NBA, college basketball, college football, you name it, we do it. Let's move on though. Mike Evans is the other guy we got to talk about. He's had some monster games. Had a big one last week too against the Washington football team. So Mike Evans and his hyperextended knee, I'm not afraid of that. I'm not worried. 14.5. I think he can get there, but let's see what the other sites think. They've got him at 14.2, which puts him slightly under PrizePicks, right? Very slight under on Mike Evans. Well, here we go again. Mike Evans on rise or fall, 15.69, guys. So this is another case where they're split on these Buccaneers receivers. And, you know, truth be told, there's a lot of mouths to feed in Tampa Bay. You've got Chris Godwin. You've got Mike Evans. You've got Antonio Brown. You've got Rob Gronkowski. And then in the backfield, you've got Leonard Fournette, possibly Ronald Jones. So there are a lot of mouths to feed in this offense. These guys are going to be tough to predict week in and week out. So you let me know what you guys are doing with these Bucs receivers. You taking overs or unders? I'd love to hear from you. Let's move on to the other side of this game, though. Michael Thomas, he's back. He missed the last few weeks of the regular season, played last week in their playoff game. Looked pretty good. He looked pretty good. He looks like he's back to being the Michael Thomas of old, which is what the Saints had hoped when they let him rest for a few weeks. Him and Drew Brees appear to be clicking. They appear to be on the same page. So they've got him projected at 15.5 points today. Michael Thomas, huge over, projected at 20. We're going to round that up to 20 points for Michael Thomas on Roto Grinders. Love to see that. That's a big edge for us. And then here on Rise or Fall, they've got Michael Thomas at 19.82. I'm rounding that bad boy up to 20 as well, and I'm taking the over on Michael Thomas and this modest 15.5 point projection that they have on PrizePicks. Guys, I do this for my NBA videos where I announce a lock. I think my lock right now is Michael Thomas against this Buccaneers secondary. We know the Bucs defensive line and linebackers are good, but where you can exploit the Bucs, where you can beat them, one of their weaknesses is their cornerbacks and their safeties, and I think Michael Thomas and Drew Brees know that. I think head coach Sean Payton will try to attack that today. And so I'm making Michael Thomas my lock of the weekend for the NFL slate. Plug him in, hit the over, and you are all set. I think that's going to do it for wide receivers. Let's scroll back to the top here, reset, rewind, and let's talk tight end real quick. There's not very many of them, and there's not really many that I really want to talk about. Let's go Robert Tonyan, though, the big man for the Green Bay Packers. As we mentioned before, Packers taking on the Rams here. So let's see if there's an edge to be had here with Rob Tonyan. Big Bob projected at 9.99. Let's call it 10 points to clean that up and make it nice and round on the number. And then we go to tight end on Rise or Fall. They like Tonyan for 9.23. So neither site has him going over 10. So they both like a slight under on Tonyan. Now where Tonyan is going to make or break you, if you take the over-under on him, is if he catches a touchdown. That's where this guy makes his living. It's catching short yardage touchdowns. So he is one of Aaron Rodgers' favorite red zone targets. So if you believe that Rodgers and Tonyan can connect on a touchdown against this Rams defense, well, you might want to take the over. Otherwise, take the under on Tonyan if you don't think that he finds the end zone. Moving down the list, there's another big name tight end that we got to talk about, Mark Andrews, Baltimore Ravens. Projected for 13 points. He is Lamar Jackson's possibly his favorite target. I think that's safe to say, either him or Hollywood Brown. The 13 projection, though, maybe that's a little too low. Let's see. Mark Andrews, 14.28 is his projection going against Buffalo. So they like the over on Mark Andrews. Let's take a look at tight end here. And Mark Andrews is at 13.41. So they got him slightly lower than Roto Grinders. But nonetheless, both sites agree that Mark Andrews will go over in this matchup against Buffalo. So there you have the breakdown for Andrews. Let's move down the line because we got to talk Travis Kelce. The best tight end in the NFL. I don't think there's anyone out there who can argue against that. This dude's matchup proof, And not only that, but speaking of matchups, Cleveland, one of the 5 worst teams in the league when it comes to guarding the tight end position. They allow, some of the biggest totals to the tight end position of any defense in the league. So I love this matchup for Travis Kelce. And I just love Travis Kelce anyway, any week against any matchup. He's matchup proof. 21.67 they have him projected for over on Roto Grinders. Keep in mind, same situation with tight end as the other positions. You don't get any kind of 3-point bonus on PrizePicks. So if you think Kelce goes over 100 yards, well, if that's baked into these projections of 21.57, well, you got to dial that back 3 points and make it 18.57. So that makes things a little more tricky. Keep that in mind, guys. But both sites have him at over 20. So there you have it for Kelce. The 100-yard bonus won't be there. Got to keep that in mind. So he's going to have to go well over 100 yards for you. Maybe get a touchdown or two to break 20 points on today's slate. Let's move down to Austin Hooper. This is another guy who's been a model of consistency over the last few weeks. He's been doing really well for this Cleveland Browns offense. Of course, no OBJ for some time now, so guys like Austin Hooper, Rashard Higgins have really stepped up in recent weeks. He's projected at just 9.5 points, which has been, less than what he's been doing in some of his recent games. But let's see where they like him across the board. They have him at, we'll call it 10. I think 10's fair. 10 over on Roto Grinders. And then over on Rise or Fall, where's he at? Oh, okay. Over on Rise or Fall, they've got him at 9.98. So both sites are pretty much on the money. They agree with each other. They both think that Austin Hooper can go slightly over this projection of 9.5, but I expect it to be close. I don't think he goes over it by much if he does go over at all. Moving on down the line, we've got 2 more tight ends to discuss, Jared Cook being one. He's projected for 8.5 points for this New Orleans Saints team who is facing the Tampa Bay Bucks, as we mentioned before. They've got him at 8.63 on Roto Grinders. Over on Rise or Fall, let's see where they have Mr. Cook. They've got Cook at 9.33. So both sites agree the over on Jared Cook is in play. And we saw Logan Thomas last week for the Washington football team. He did pretty well against the Buccaneers. Buccaneers aren't great against opposing tight ends, so there may be some merit to taking the over on Jared Cook. But finally, the last guy we must talk about is Gronk. Rob Gronkowski, Tampa Bay Buccaneers tight end, who is projected for 7 points. He's a lot like Robert Tonyan, who he's not going to put up a ton of receptions. He's not going to put up a ton of receiving yards. He does have the ability to catch, maybe one long ball per game. He has had some big plays here and there for this Bucs offense. But where Rob Gronkowski is going to eat is in the red zone. He is a favorite red zone target of Tom Brady. If you've been following football for the last decade, you know that the Brady to Gronk connection is a very real thing. So the projection for him on Roto Grinders is 7.75. And then over on Rise or Fall, they've got him at 7.47. So this is quite simply just a matter of, does Rob Gronkowski catch a touchdown or not? If he catches a touchdown, guys, take the over all day long. Because one catch, one touchdown, that's going to put him over 7 points. So you're basically betting on Rob Gronkowski catching a touchdown or not catching a touchdown with this pick. That does it for the main positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. I will skim through the board real quick and see if there's anything else that we want to talk about. I really don't like going with kickers, but that's up to you guys. That's very, very hit or miss. I think I did read that there will be some bad weather in the Buffalo Ravens game, Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens game. So if that's the case, weather can impact a kicker's performance. Both of these guys are projected at 9, which, with clear weather conditions is definitely doable, especially with the high power offense that the Ravens and the Bills have. But in bad weather, if it's windy, if it's snowing, you may want to take the unders there on both of these kickers and make some easy money. Otherwise, here's Cody Parkey. I don't trust him. I think I took the under on him earlier this season. He's not a great kicker. Butker's a pretty good kicker too, but Yeah, I'm probably not touching any kickers on this slate, guys, but I think that's going to do it for today's video. I didn't want this one to run too long. We covered a bunch of names, a bunch of games. Hopefully you guys have found some value from this video. Again, my lock is Michael Thomas going over his projection of 15.5, but leave a comment below. If I'm wrong on Michael Thomas, tell me why I'm wrong. I'd like to hear back from you. And as always, if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Turn on those notifications. I don't want you guys to miss any of my videos in the future. And hit the thumbs up. We're going for 10 likes on this video. Let's see if we can go over 10 likes. I love the support that you guys have been showing. Until next time, this is CJ for Out of Bounds. Peace.